For Besiktas this season, there was a Canadian presence all throughout, and they desperately needed a win and goals to win the title, and that they did. 2-1 victors in their final game. They ended up tied. There's the Canadian Cyle Larin. They ended up tied in points with Galatasaray, but they beat them on goal differential, guys, by 1. Besiktas claiming the title for the 16th time in their history. Atiba Hutchinson as well, long time part of that team. And what a season, an unprecedented one it has been for Canadian soccer players across the globe. Check this out, of players who have already won their league titles. Scott Arfield in the Scottish Premier League. Milan Borjan went undefeated. Serbian Superliga. Alphonso Davies doing it again with Bundesliga. Jesse Fleming and Chelsea won the FA Women's Super League. And then Kyle Larin, Atiba Hutchinson adding their name to that board. We'll talk a little bit later about Jonathan David, who you know would want to be part of that. And we know Christine St. Clair and the Portland Thorns getting off to a great start. The Canadian story doesn't stop. But Ollie, when it comes to Kyle Larin, we're not going to stop talking about where he could possibly play next season, if he remains in Turkey, if he moves to the Premier League. But on a personal note, just purely entertainment maybe wise, where do you want to see him play?
Okay, well, we've got a Canadian in Germany, Alphonso Davies, obviously at Bayern. We've got one in Ligue 1 with Jonathan David. We've got some players coming through in the Premier League in CORBEANU, Liam Miller, maybe now Daniel JEBBISON as well. So I was looking at maybe getting a Canadian into La Liga or into Serie A. And when you talk about entertainment, my eyes were immediately drawn to Atalanta. I think this could be a great fit for Kyle Larin. It's a team. It's a team that's a bit of a smaller. hang on. It's a team that's a bit of a smaller team, so they have to go shopping in places like Turkey rather than buying the big established superstars. It's a team that plays a great style of football. They could accommodate Kyle Larin as one of those kind of slightly more withdrawn forwards. And it's a team that could offer him Champions League football year in, year out these days. So I think it would be a great fit. I love watching Atalanta as it is. Add Kyle Larin in, and I'm on board all season.
Ollie, I sighed because I completely agree with you. I cannot believe it. I wrote in our show notes, Atalanta would be the perfect place for Kyle Larin. That's where I would love to see him play. They go out and score goals on a regular basis, scored 4 more goals on the weekend. I am completely with you. Larin, his next move, he needs to play in a top 5 European league. Serie A fits the bill for me. The league is getting quicker. I think you need a little bit more athleticism. For me, that would be a proper next step. And that's the type of player that Atalanta looks like. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I completely agree with Oliver Platt.
Okay, this is some wacky Monday, that's for sure. All right, when it comes to Alphonso Davies winning his 3rd crown with Bundesliga, Gareth, what else is there for him to do?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, this is going to be a really intriguing rest of 2021 for Alphonso Davies. The next on his agenda is turning his attention to the Canadian men's national team in these all-important World Cup qualifiers in June. PHONZIE wants it. PHONZIE's emerged as a leader in the Canadian men's national team as well. I think if he's allowed to, if he's given permission, I think he'll be part of the Gold Cup outfit as well, which Canada wants to go out and make a statement in this region against the biggest and brightest. The question is, will he be allowed to? With a new manager, Nagelsmann, coming to Bayern Munich, I mean, for me, this is a manager that can get the most out of Alphonso Davies. The style of play fits him to a T. He's going to be able to attack down that left-handed side in a more advanced role. It's going to be really intriguing how that works. I think the sky's the limit here, but will it limit Alphonso Davies and prohibit him, I should say, from playing in the Gold Cup? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, there is still a ton for Alphonso Davies still to do at Bayern, I think, and it's going to be really interesting to see him under a new coach next year. But you can't help but turn to his international career, right? And just look at kind of the runway that's in front of him, and it's pretty incredible. He's already become the youngest player to play for Canada. He's been the Gold Cup top scorer, the youngest scorer at the Gold Cup. He scored in the biggest win Canada have had in a long time against the United States to end that 34-year drought. Now you start to look ahead at the 2022 World Cup and the position he's in to help Canada qualify for that for the first time in obviously a long time. You look at 2026 on home soil, the potential for him to play in Edmonton in front of his hometown at a World Cup would be an incredible thing. And then you even look at 2030, he's still only going to be 29 years old when the 2030 World Cup comes around, which is absolutely incredible. So you look at the career, and obviously there's a lot of ifs, buts and maybes and a long way to go, but you look at the career he could have for Canada, decider. It's something like, I look at Didier Drogba with Ivory Coast, never been to a World Cup, went to 3 while Drogba was in the team. He could have that kind of impact and become that kind of icon for this national team.
Well, I had mentioned there is another Canadian player who would love to add his list or his name to that list of Canadians who have won their title, and that would be Jonathan David with Lille. They missed out on an opportunity this past weekend to clinch, going back and forth with PSG. So the Ligue 1 title is going to come down to the final game, and Lille needs to win it in order to clinch that. So would you say, Ollie, that this is the biggest moment right now in Jonathan David's career?
Yeah, it's a massive game you can watch on OneSoccer this weekend, and not only is it a title decider, which makes it big enough and appealing enough, but it's a title decider in which a Canadian is not only playing for one of the teams, but there's a very good chance he could decide the title. You look at Lille's records when Jonathan David contributes, when he has a goal or an assist. They've won every single game they've played in the league this season when that happens. When he doesn't, the points per game rate, particularly since the turn of the year when he's become more and more important and really come into form, the points per game rate cuts in half. That's tended to be when they've struggled, particularly in recent weeks, is when Jonathan David can't get on the score sheet with a goal or creating a goal for his teammates. So it's a massive game in and of itself, but as I said, there's also a very, very good chance that Jonathan David is going to be the guy who one way or another decides where this title goes. So it's not one to miss.
And it's not just winning a title, Ollie. It's winning it at the expense of the rich kids at PSG. And they're already applying the pressure. They're saying, we're going to go out and win next weekend. They need to go out and do their job against Angers. And look, like, all the pressure's on Lille here, right? PSG will play free. They'll probably come out with the full 3 points. It's about Lille, a team that hasn't always been a dominant force in every game that they played. It's up for them to go and find goals and be the protagonist here. So it's going to be a huge game and a pressure cooker for Johnny David this weekend.
Well, when we look at Red Star Belgrade, if we go to Serbia, that did not come down to the wire. Milan Borjan just had an incredible season. He went undefeated, 34 wins, 3 draws, allowing just 19 goals. What a year for him as, once again, Red Star Belgrade end up capturing the title there. So would you say, Gareth, that Borjan is in the conversation for greatest Canadian goalkeeper?
He's getting close. I still think that title is held by your friend and mine. Andy and the great Craig Forrest was one of 13 foreign players to play in the first weekend ever of this new Premier League that we see. Played with Ipswich, played with West Ham in the best, football division in the men's game today. Obviously won a Gold Cup for Canada as well. That's his title, but Borjan's playing regularly in the Champions League or the Europa League, playing regular European football. He's second now in clean sheets. By the end of this year, he could pass Pat Onstead for that honor with the Canadian men's national team. And if Borjan helps Canada qualify for the World Cup, I don't think that there's an argument to be made. He would then be determined as the greatest Canadian goalkeeper of all time.
Yeah, I agree. It's still Forrest for now. When you think about what an international league the Premier League has become, being one of those first 13 foreign players in the first weekend is a pretty special thing, I think, to go along with everything else that Craig Forrest achieved in his career. But yeah, as Will said, in this upcoming campaign, if he can play a big part in getting Canada to a World Cup, it's going to be a chance to really cement his legacy and maybe take that top spot, just as it's going to be a big legacy opportunity for so many of these Canadian players.
You know what's going to help him take that top spot? If he scores a header in stoppage time to win the game. Another level. 4th straight title for him, by the way.
Let's talk about his world-class goal.
World-class goal by a goalkeeper. Let's head on over to Oakville, Ontario. That's at least where 17-year-old Daniel JEBBISON is from, the Canadian. But he scored for Sheffield United. His first goal, that was 1-0 over Everton. That was yesterday. Now, he was born in Canada, but at an early age, he moved to England. So he's represented England in the youth under 18 level. But do you think, Ollie, I guess, is he someone, though, that John Herdman will try to recruit for the Maple Leaf?
Yeah, absolutely. He only moved over to England in 2017, so not too long ago, and you can hear the Canadian accent in the post-game interview he gave.
Yes.
So he's absolutely going to be someone like CORBEANU, who they try to recruit, but it's going to be interesting because he has been brought into the England system and made his debut for the under-18s. I think there's going to be a few situations like this where we've already seen it with Yunus Musa, with the USA and England, obviously, where a player has to choose between the possibility of playing for England and what that can do for your career. And it's such a money maker to get that England cap, and the transfer value, the salary that's going to allow you to earn is very, very tempting. But you have to wait for that for a long time. It's a very deep pool. It's only a maybe. It's no guarantee that it will happen. Versus, on the other hand, potentially as a teenager still, as we've seen with CORBEANU, coming into this Canadian group and really being a part of it pretty quickly. So it's going to be a big decision for a lot of young players to make, I think, who have these dual nationalities, and obviously that's becoming more common these days.
The question is when, and timing is of the essence here. I do know for a fact that Canada did reach out to JEBBISON ahead of the January camp. There was interest shown, but then he ended up, taking part with the England under-18 a few weeks later. I'm of the understanding that JEBBISON and Canada will speak again after the Premier League season ends next weekend, so maybe those conversations happen in the next 2 weeks. But he's 17 years old. How good is this player going to be? Does he think that he's good enough to compete with the likes of the Sterlings and the Mason Mounts and the Phil Fodens and the Marcus Rashfords of the world? Because that's what some players and their agents, that's where they lead them to think that they can make it in a highly competitive England side, which, Ollie, in world football right now, is there a more competitive national team to be a part of than England? I would just hate for him to make a mistake like Tamori did. Played one, he got cap-tied in a qualifying match, and now he's stuck. He may never even play for England again when he could play in a World Cup for Canada. If you have JEBBISON alongside THEO CORBEANU, who also made his Premier League debut over the weekend, scored 2 goals with the under-23s today. Happy 19th birthday, THEO CORBEANU, with Davies and David and Liam Miller and perhaps an Ayo Akinola. Those are 6 players under the age of 22 that you can have forming your attack for the future for Canada. If I'm JEBBISON, I get on board with that because the sky's the limit. What that group can do in this region, perhaps qualifying for multiple World Cups. So I think the hope is that he comes and decides at some point to represent Canada, but I'm not quite so sure that we're anywhere close to that yet.
The kids are all right, that's for sure. We go this way, their age goes that way. That's what it feels like it's happening with the Canadian national team. But who would you say, Gareth, is the front runner for Canadian Men's Player of the Year?
We have a long way to go, and it's not one of those years that you can just judge by club football. It's going to be what they do for the Canadian men's national team. But so far, the clubhouse leader is Cyle Larin. 15 goals for club in 2021, 4 goals in 2 games for Canada in those qualifying matches. So far, he's the clubhouse leader in terms of the Canadian men's national team, with David, Atiba, Davies close behind in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, I think it's those 4. Larin's had an incredible season, obviously. Davies and David, while they're at the clubs they're at, just need to exist to be in this conversation because they're playing at such a high level. But I think the front runner right now is Atiba Hutchinson. Just another incredible season. 4 goals, 8 assists from central midfield. The age he is at, there are not many outfield players playing at the level he is, if any at all. For a club like Besiktas. So just another incredible year for Atiba, but it will be decided, I think, more on international football this year with all the big games that Canada have got coming up.